Hello and welcome. In this first episode of the Ballymaloe Festival of Food podcast, we sent you, Jolene, down to talk to the one and only Darina Allen.
Yeah, you did. And I absolutely loved chatting to her because, of course, we all know Darina. She's a chef, she's a teacher, she's an activist, of course, she's a grandmother and a trailblazer who has shaped how Ireland cooks, eats, and thinks about food. I had a great time with her, you know. She's just so warm, she's open, she's honest, and we talked about everything from winning someone's heart with a loaf of soda bread, good tips there, and some powerful food memories.
I've had the privilege of working with Darina on and off for the last 20 years, and every day I am inspired by something she says, she does, she teaches. She's an extraordinary woman.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as a grandmother as well, and this really came through in the conversation, she sees food as a thread, you know, that binds generations. And it's just a way to pass on not just recipes, but a way of life. So I asked her what traditions are worth holding on to. And of course, what's lighting her up at the moment. And how can we reconnect with real food in a world that's just moving too fast?
Yeah, amazing conversations. And she's so inspiring when she starts talking about all these subjects that I just know everyone's going to be riveted by it.
Yeah. And as people are listening to this episode for the first time, I guess it's a good opportunity to introduce the Ballymaloe Festival of Food podcast, because this is going to be a space for stories, ideas, and conversations that grow out of this very special gathering that happens in East Cork. Brie, do you want to tell people a little bit about you and who you were?
I'm Brie Allen. I'm the festival organiser and manager of the Ballymaloe Grain Store. I've called Ballymaloe home now for the last 2 decades. It feels like it's just gone by in a snap of my fingers.
And talking about snaps, well, that's exactly what I do, because I am a photographer, a storyteller, I think, at this point, and a really long-time collaborator with all you guys at Ballymaloe and at the festival.
And it's such a joy to be working with you on this podcast.
Thanks. Well, I'm looking forward to it too, because each episode we'll be sitting down with incredible voices from the world of food. That includes chefs, growers, artists, writers, and the people who are shaping how we eat, grow, cook, and connect today.
Fantastic. Will we leave them off and let them listen to Darina doing what Darina does best?
I think we should. Without further ado, here's our conversation with the one and only Darina Allen. So it is absolutely glorious to be here. It is a beautiful spring day, and we're here at the Ballymaloe Cookery School and the Organic Farm School, which is in Shanagarry in East Cork. And I feel it's really just a time of like new energy. There's fresh shoots and there's warm light. The sunshine is here. And of course, we're just a few weeks out as well from the Ballymaloe Festival of Food, which, as we know, is an annual celebration that brings together farmers, chefs, writers and food lovers from all over to explore these ideas about community and food and sustainability.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be even more exciting this year.
I hope
Every
so.
single year, Brie builds on from experience of the year before, and it just gets bigger and better and more wonderful.
It is
I
certainly
think I'm
that.
full of admiration for her organisation and everything, and her ideas and all of that. Really looking forward to it.
Really looking forward to the Festival of Food. And I think here today, like I came into the cookery school, the students are on day 2 of their start of the 12-week.
Of the summer 12-week
The
course.
summer 12-week course. The farm is in full flow. Like there's everything going on, you know, it's like new things are growing, the hens are out, and like there's just this kind of sense of curiosity.
It's
really
a
from
super
people.
time of the year, because literally the last week or two, all the buds have burst, the leaves have come out, and so everything looks so fresh and green. Yeah, it's looking good. Yeah,
It's
looking
a
good.
living, breathing ecosystem. That's what it is. People, nature and nourishment. And for those who are listening today, I suppose the heart of all of this place here is the person that we're speaking to, and that's you, Darina Allen. Of course, somebody who needs no introduction whatsoever in Irish food, but of course you deserve one all the same. So if you will entertain me, Darina is, of course, a chef, a teacher, an activist, a trailblazer, and you know, you've shaped how generations of us think about food, cooking and sustainability. And of course, you're the founder of this legendary cookery school. It's located here on a 100-acre organic farm, and more recently the farm school. which is a visionary project that's rooted in the belief that how we grow our food is just important as how we prepare and share it.
Yeah, here.
Yeah. Darina, you've also been a lifelong champion of traditional techniques, local produce and the slow food movement, and you've many best-selling books, television work and decades of teaching, which I feel has inspired thousands of cooks. What a build-up. But beyond all of that, of course, you are a grandmother, a family lady, a teacher, and you're someone who believes in the power of food to connect us across generations, cultures and across the table. Darina, what does that sound like to hear that back to you?
Sometimes it sounds like a different person, but anyway, there we are.
No, but it's all true.
Good.
It's all true. And really thank you for taking the time to join us. So I'm wondering what's exciting you at the moment? What's kind of floating your boat?
Well,
what's making you happy?
Well, we sit out here on this glorious day and we're really lucky. The sun is shining down on us and the excitement in the school. The students arrived, as you said, for the summer 12-week course there on Sunday, and there are 14 different nationalities and they're full of excitement and eager to learn as much as they possibly can over the next 12 weeks. And so, you know something, Julian, I feel so fortunate that I still love what I'm doing. And I feel, coming across the courtyard in the morning, I feel excitement, and I feel so blessed that somehow or other we managed to find a way to earn a living and to stay on the land and on the farm that we love, because we're right out in the country here, we're right out in the sticks, and oftentimes it's quite difficult to find a way to keep the roof over your heads without commuting in and out of the city every day. I mean, that lots of people love to do that, but for me, I didn't really want to do that. So, and I could be teaching maths or algebra or something, and of course it's super important, but it's not like teaching cooking and passing on the forgotten skills or skills of how to grow or that kind of thing. It's actually you can see somebody's face light up, and it's actually it's touching people's lives.
Yeah, it is. And you carry so much passion and so much energy for it. It's really inspiring. I'm wondering, what is your key to keeping going at this momentum?
But I mean, I have a really terrific team here. I know everybody says this, but it's a very well-oiled machine. We're here in the middle of, we're very fortunate, first and foremost, that the school is in the middle of a farm. It's a very biodiverse working farm, organic farm. It's been organic, managed organically for over nearly 30 years now. And on this small farm, believe it or not, we can create employment for 60 some, I think there's 64, 65 on the payroll at the moment. And this is not Ballymaloe House, this is just the Ballymaloe Cookery School Organic Farm and Gardens. And and then in the summer, that number goes up to maybe 75, 78 people. And we're right out in a little village in the country, very close to Ballycotton, close to the sea as well. So again, as I said, maybe I'm repeating myself, but I feel so fortunate to have been somehow or other with a skill that a lot of people don't reckon is really worth bothering about, learning how to cook. The only thing I could do, I often say the only thing I can really do is scramble eggs, and I'm being a little facetious when I say that, but basically with that one skill that lots of people think is not even worth bothering about. I've had a really interesting life. I've had the opportunity to write books, do television, and do many. Who's that now? Yeah,
that's okay.
Doesn't matter.
They're all part of the atmosphere because we're sitting outside in the garden.
That's
so I'm sure people would like to hear the hum and the busyness of life.
So with that one skill
of scrambling eggs.
Scrambling eggs or whatever. I've managed to have a really fun life. I've got the opportunity to do television, write books, travel a lot, learn from a million different people, and then I've had the opportunity to pass on these skills to others as well. And then I say to them, okay, you've learned this now, you go out there and pass on these skills to other people. So I'm hoping that it has had a ripple effect.
I think it has.
Over the years. It started in 1983. We started in September 1983, we started the cooking school. And it was really born out of desperation, because at that stage we were farming, we were in horticulture and agriculture. And then a lot of things kind of happened. It was like a perfect storm almost. there was a bad recession in Ireland at the end of the 70s and into the early 80s, and the labour costs started to rise, and of course all the costs went up and up. Then the cheap food policy kicked in, the supermarkets came on stream, and then there was the oil crisis.
Yes.
The price of oil shot up. We were heating 5 acres of greenhouses with oil at the time, not very efficient ones. And then there was 25% inflation, 15% interest rates. People can't believe that when you hear it now. And so then we went from quite a viable business to actually almost losing the roof over our heads in a couple of years. And we had 4 small children at that stage. And because we were getting less and less for our produce every month, every year, we could see the writing on the wall. There was no way we were going to be able to continue in horticulture and so on. So many, like nowadays, so many farmers are finding it extremely difficult to even make ends meet. We're simply not, because we all think that cheap food is outright, at this stage. And I don't know how we can justify expecting farmers and food producers to produce food below an economic level, and they don't, in many cases, they don't even be paid cost price or fair price to produce the food they're doing, they're growing and producing. And then, as well as that, they're expected. So how come we can expect them to do this? It's not fair.
It's not fair.
And it's a big, big crisis. So we were in a similar sort of crisis, and we had to find a different way. So anyway, I was able to cook a little, and I had been, when Ballymaloe was quiet in the winter, Myrtle, my mother-in-law Myrtle Allen, who was such a pioneer and in whose footsteps I follow,
lady,
and try to pass on her philosophy as well. She would give some little cooking, started to give cooking classes, you see, in the winter to fill the bedrooms and this, that and the other, and then I would help her. And then eventually she got too busy. She decided to open a restaurant in Paris. I come from a long line of mad women.
And long may it continue.
Can you imagine the vision it had? Because Myrtle knew that the produce we had here in Ireland was so good, and because she travelled quite a bit. And at that stage in Ireland, we had such an inferiority complex. We were convinced that what they had in the UK or America, and they had to be much better than what we had here. But anyway, she got busy, went to open the restaurant in Paris, and people still kept asking for cooking classes, and she said, why don't you do them? I said, nobody'll come to me, it's your name, they come for it, everything. But desperation is a wonderful thing. We were desperate. So anyway, I gave a few little classes, and then I was terrified for the first one, but then when you get over the first of something, you realise maybe you could do it. So I realised maybe I could teach, and that a lot of people, I was doing little things that I thought were quite simple, and yet a lot of people were thrilled to learn them.
Absolutely.
And so on, we built on from there. So
that is such a wonderful
anyway,
story.
That's a big long.
That's a big long, but I love that you went into the detail there, because I'm sure a lot of people don't know about those early origins. And even, your website, cookingIsFun.ie, you absolutely empower that, And I love that, over the years you've always spoken so passionately about how we grow our food.
Yeah.
And I think, this new farm school and the reiteration of that, it's a huge part of your energy. It's almost like a deepening of your life's work. So, can you tell me about the organic farm school?
Well,
why now?
Can you imagine? I'm now 76, but basically, and I'm very fortunate to still have quite a bit of energy. But a couple of years ago, there was murmurings about, and even the word retirement was even brought up. And would I not sort of put my feet up a bit and this, that and the other? And, I've sort of love what I'm doing. So I didn't really want to do that. Of course, I'm drawing back a little bit from the day-to-day running of the actual cooking school, because it's such a great team here with Rory and Rachel and so many other wonderful teachers, many of whom have been with us for years. And so then I thought, well, I need another project. Of course, for years, as I said, we're in the middle of a farm here, and I noticed the students getting more and more interested over the last decade or so in how food is produced and where it comes from, the source of it, the breed of the animals, the feed, all that sort of thing. And, the farm here there's over 60 years experience and knowledge and incredible. It's the farm is very much a working farm, very biodiverse farm, and so there's so many skills and things that people are desperate to learn. There's a real craving to relearn, forgotten skills. And life has changed so much. Of course, nowadays, almost always both partners are working and trying to keep all the balls in the air. I'm full of admiration for people. I don't know how they do it. And then on the way back from work, exhausted, trying to dash into the shops and supermarkets to grab something for supper and so on. It's all very fine to say, well, start from scratch and cook this, that and the other, but it's almost impossible. And so, really, I wanted, so then I thought, well, look, I really want to pass on the skills from the farm and the garden to all these people who would love to, learn anything from how to sow a seed or keep bees or whatever. And we'd hoped it would be a success. Built a little classroom just below the school, and we'd hoped it'd be a success. But my goodness, I had no idea the overwhelmingly positive response we would get. And there is a craving out there to relearn simple things like, as I just mentioned. I mean, we start off by, telling the students how vitally important the health of the soil is. And, and I quote Lady Eve Balfour, who was one of the founders of the Soil Association, just to remind us in our busy lives that what was her quote now? Remember, the health of the soil, the health of the plant, the health of the animal, and the health of the human are all connected and one and indivisible. So basically it all starts with the soil. And for a lot of people, this is what? Because in our busy lives, the last thing we think about is the 3 or 4 inches of soil underneath our feet. Yeah. And we don't realise that our very existence depends on that. And so anyway, we start that, and then we show people how to sow seeds, how to grow vegetables, fruit, how to keep a few hens, how to, there's even, we do how to save seeds, on and on. Homeopathic medicine for animals, totally oversubscribed. So virtually all the classes are oversubscribed. Some of them the last homesteading course we did last year, there were 55 people on a waiting list. Wow. And 5 people flew from New York for a week. Can you imagine? Wow. And including one woman who had no place at all on the course. She was on a waiting list, and but she just got on a plane and shipped up on Monday morning and said, here I am. You can't turn me away now. Stop. And of course, it's exactly what myself or Karen O'Donoghue, who was my partner in this, would have done if we'd wanted something badly enough. So basically, and there, I don't know how many nationalities we've had so far. We've had people from 8 or 10 different countries. So this is extraordinary. And so we've tapped into a yearning to relearn. And you see, a lot of people nowadays, everybody's so busy, so exhausted, so everything. And there's a whole interesting kind of global movement now. It's called homesteading. It's kind of a bit folksy kind of name. It's an American sort of a term, but the similar thing is happening in many other countries, Australia, the UK, all over, where people are, this goes something like this, where they could be in tech or in hedge funds or in, any kind of job, and they're driving into the city on their commute some morning, it's raining, they're stuck in another flipping traffic jam, and they say, they have like this moment where they think, oh my God, they can see their life stretching out ahead of them, and they think there has to be more to life than this. And so not everyone can afford the luxury of this kind of decision, but many then say, well, look, that's it. They want to take back some control over their lives, over the food that they eat. A lot of people are now beginning to connect the food they eat with how they feel with their health, and not before time. Basically, because again, one of the very basic things that we need to really make people aware of is our food should be our medicine, real food, not and the less you spend on food, the more you spend on meds. So we need to pay the farmers and the food producers properly to produce nutrient-dense food that will nourish us and make us feel well, instead of what's happening at the moment. Oh my goodness! But anyway,
this is a real revolution. It's almost like you're bringing us back into our past. And I love the way that you speak about soil, because I find when you put your hands into the earth and you kind of touch that and you see a seed grow and it becomes something on your plate, there is nothing more rewarding and nourishing. And I think it tastes better.
It totally tastes better. And well, I can tell you, if you sow a seed and wait for it to germinate and to grow into something to eat, it can take. Most people have no idea how long it takes to grow in their busy lives. They don't think about it. How long it takes to grow a bunch of beetroot or carrots or anything. It takes over 4 months, and then you go into one of the discounters and you get it for less than €1. Hello, what's that about? Who would look after something for 3 months and be happy to just take €1 or whatever from it? And so, but when you grow something yourself, my God, not only you can't wait to taste it. You'll cook it really carefully and beautifully. You want everybody to know you grew it, and I bet you'll eat it slowly, and also you give from then on, gives you a real understanding of the work that goes into growing something properly. And I can tell you, you'll want to hug every farmer and grower you see.
And I think it doesn't need to be that scary for people either. I mean, I think we can grow lettuce in flower pots outside.
Flower pots.
It really doesn't need to be a big deal, and I think that's important to empower people as well, to be able to have the confidence to do it. Because sometimes we can just get a bit scared about,
You're absolutely right, and it's not even just to empower them. It's just for them to get a taste of the magic of actually sowing a seed and then it growing into something.
Absolutely.
And it is magic, you see grown people almost with tears in their eyes, that sort of thing. Oh, the other thing we show people, of course, is how to keep a few hens and how to hatch out little chickens. Oh, talk about tears in the eyes. You see all the top company and they're there with their little chicken in their hand.
It's gorgeous.
But I'm not suggesting everybody should have to hatch out chickens, whatever floats your boat.
So these are real skills that, a couple of generations ago was absolute old hat, easy kind of stuff. And I'd love now to talk about, that kind of tradition, because of course you are a grandmother, as we said earlier, but you're always surrounded by lots of young people, I think, either your family, your students. How lucky are you? But you've got your students, your family, your grandchildren, these future chefs and farmers, and yet you yourself, you hold so much tradition there. So I want to know, what's that like for you? But also, how do you see this relationship between generations showing up through food? And what can we learn about that intergenerational exchange?
This is very interesting, because up to a couple of decades ago, of course, everything was different. Grandparents were at home, and there were multi-generational families, and people you wouldn't even talk about teaching somebody how to cook. You just learned by watching what was going on in the kitchen, by helping and all of that kind of thing. So the skills were passed on sort of by osmosis almost. I never remember being shown how to bake a loaf of soda bread, but my mother made soda bread every day of her life practically. And then, you'd be helping, there were 9 of us, so I can tell you, we all had our little jobs, but you'd be helping whisk the white sauces, we used to call it, for macaroni cheese or for cauliflower cheese, and you'd go down the garden to pull some carrots out of the ground, and so the growing, the cooking and everything, it was all part of every day. Now, of course, now, as we mentioned earlier, the reality of most people's lives is quite different. So basically, it's so much busier and everything like that, and we've actually failed our young people, letting them out of our houses and out of our schools without equipping them with the basic skills to feed themselves properly. And what are we doing? Putting them right into the hand of the multinational food companies. The less they can do, the less skilled we are. Skills are freedom. The less skilled we are, the more we're dependent on other people. And this has kind of happened to us we don't realise how de-skilled we've become. So then the other flipping thing in, education.
Darina said flipping.
Is that
but it's obviously something you are passionate about.
Yeah, the main emphasis is on on acquiring a set of academic skills. And these practical skills like cooking and growing and a little bit of carpentry, sewing. A lot of people would sew on a button to save their lives now. All of these skills are looked on as of much lesser value. And whatever about anything else, the cooking skills and the growing skills are we're actually anyway. But whatever about anything else, being able to cook and to grow are vital life skills.
And they should be part of our
They
education
should
system
be
across
embedded
the board.
in it. They should be embedded in our national curriculum. And I think the government, everybody, we're failing in our duty of care by not doing this. And I'm a complete failure because I've been actually talking about this for 20, 30 years now. I've been on to the Department of Education, I've been on to the Minister for Education, I've been on to people who write the curriculum, etc., etc., etc. It's like trying to turn a steamer, basically, and trying to get the basic cooking, offering to help, all sorts of things, trying to get practical cooking skills embedded in the curriculum. And virtually nothing is happening. Now, having said that, all around the country there are teachers in schools who feel so strongly about this, and the schools that actually have kitchens are the fortunate ones, and those passionate teachers are somehow or other managing to fit this into the curriculum. And but it's not a mandatory thing, you see. And if you think, well, it's much more important to do science or medicine or whatever else, well, of course cooking is going to be put on the back finger. And we're paying a terrible price. We're sleepwalking into an incredible health crisis. And we're not just sleepwalking into it, we are in it at the moment. In America, you can see the effect of the diet, classic American diet of ultra-processed food on people's health. We cannot say any longer that we don't know the effect that ultra-processed food is having on our health. I think of, when I say I'm a total failure, I'm not joking you. When I think this, look at it, it's just got worse and worse and worse. In Ireland, wait for this, now you probably know this, we spend more of our food income on ultra-processed foods than any other country in Europe. 56.9% of our income, weekly income, goes on ultra-processed food. Now that's average, so some people much more, and then the UK spend a bit more, but they're not in the EU. I think they're 52%. America is more than that again. But basically, I long for, and it's essential. This is really, for me, this is absolutely of the utmost urgency. So for the government to wake up and realise how important food is to the health of the nation. Now, the wealth of a nation depends on the health of a nation, and the health of a nation to a great extent depends on the food we eat. So if you ask me what I'd like to see happening, I would love this penny to really drop, and for the urgency and the responsibility of the government to do this. So what we need, in my opinion, is a huge educational program where, you get the top companies to make a campaign, so that people will become aware that every single bite of food we eat has consequences on our health, either for the better or for worse, and indeed on the environment for better or worse. So basically, if we had an awareness campaign that basically our food should be our medicine, and you want real food, a food that hasn't got a whole lot of, needless to say, a whole lot of additives, this, that, and the other. That's just the real ingredients. So when you eat it, you feel well, you feel satisfied. And I'm afraid, I feel very strongly that we need to go out of our way to get chemical-free food. Again, we can no longer say that we don't know the damage that the pesticides and herbicides and all those residues are doing to our health. And in the end, of course, there are people who have very little in the way of choice. But everybody needs healthy, wholesome food. Absolutely. Basically. And you see, if you can cook again, basically you're much more likely to be, you're much more likely to be able to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. In other words, a bag of potatoes, whatever, and whatever you have, a little bit of streaky bacon. You can make all sorts of good things if you can cook. Absolutely. And if you can't cook. But also, unfortunately, as ever, these things impact more on people who are poorer and more disadvantaged, because not only do they not have very often the skills or the money, but oftentimes they are time poor as well. In other words, they may be doing 2 or 3 jobs. It's a disaster, and in my opinion, it's going to take, if the government just looked at this, apart from anything else, they're simply not, how long is it going to take for them to dawn on them that we actually will not be able to fund the health service from the point of view of money if we don't do something to put in some preventative measures rather than trying to remedy and who's benefiting from this? It's just the pharmaceutical companies are benefiting from it. So I would love this basic message to be ingrained in all our education. Television, I mean, they can be, look at how they've managed to brainwash us into buying all sorts of things through clever advertising. This is not a difficult thing to do. And if you have good, clever people.
When you look at like the tobacco campaign, when you see it on the back of cigarette packets, I'm not going to smoke a cigarette when I see these horrendous pictures. So a campaign like this can be strong and it can be impactful.
Yes.
And do you know what's interesting when I hear you speak about looking at our grandmothers and these intergenerational people cooking and learning these skills? I think today we receive so much content through social media. But funnily enough, like I've also met people who thought that if they throw an onion on a chopping board, it's just going to automatically disintegrate and come into little cubes.
I love it. So I love to get these kind of insights, because then you realise, how basic one has to go, and that's great. It's fine. We can go as basic, but you need to be asked the question, think, oh my God, I should have explained that.
How do I chop an onion? And it's those simple processes that if we can get people to understand it, and this is what you're doing all the time, and I think the message just needs to go far and wide.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've just started now, and I'm a bit slow on it. I started off a couple of weeks ago quite well. I don't think they're even up yet, but I'm going to do a little Ballymaloe. I've started doing a little Ballymaloe basics on YouTube, and I'll put them up a little soon.
Wonderful.
But absolutely, because I've been, like, how do you scramble an egg? How do you boil potatoes? How do you make a little a cheese sauce or something? How do you make a tomato fondue? Very basic things. I'm desperate for people to tell me, oh look, can you please show me how to do this? Can you show me how to do that? And I'll do any of that. Simple little, short, maybe 5-10 minute things that people can look at. How to make a little loaf of soda bread. People think, oh my God, I can't possibly make bread. That's terribly advanced altogether. Basically, sure, you wouldn't. I mean, to make a loaf of soda bread, all you have to do is turn on the oven, put a few bits in a bowl and mix them around.
Could you give us a very simple recipe, perhaps for a soup?
For a soup? Well, I'd finish off with soda bread now before I go. So, I mean, loads of people think they couldn't possibly make a loaf of bread. And that squishy bread, basically with, 19 to 21 different ingredients in it, is, as I said before, if I was, and I got into trouble for it, but basically, as I said before, if I was the Minister for Health, the first thing I'd do is ban that kind of squishy bread and so on. But look, people think they can't make a loaf of bread. All you have to do, our soda breads are so easy to make. All you have to do is, well, next time you discover you're nearly out of bread, turn on the oven, okay? And then weigh up the ingredients, put them into a bowl, a bit of buttermilk, mix it around, and that takes maybe 30 seconds, a minute. Turn it out, cut across and prick it to let the fairies out of the bread, and then pop it into the oven. Now, if you like, you could actually flatten out the dough and make it into scones, and then they'll be out of the oven in 10 minutes. Otherwise, a loaf of bread is 35 minutes. And the smell of the lovely
gorgeous, isn't it?
bread, my God. And, one of the easiest ways to win friends and influence people. And it's you make it for a few you know, literally it would hardly be a couple of euros. And you wouldn't have found your car keys and be back from the shops by the time it's out of the oven.
It's nutritious,
It's
filling,
nutritious,
dense,
absolutely.
all the good things in it.
All the good things. And if you want the recipe for that, it's a pound of, well, it could be, you can mix wholemeal and white flour together, a level teaspoon of salt, a level teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda, sieve it or get out the lumps out of it, and then about 14, 15 fluid ounces of milk.
Beautiful.
Oven 230 centigrade for about, well, you could turn it down after 15 minutes if you like, down to 200, and it'll take about 30, 35 minutes to cook a loaf, 10 minutes for scones.
Great.
I mean, honestly.
We'll pop that recipe at the bottom
Well,
of the show
I'll
notes.
give you the proper
recipe.
Recipe. When I say proper, with all the little instructions.
exact stuff. Thank you,
absolutely.
Darina.
I mean, and you know, often all my students think I'm out of the ark, you know. But anyway, I joke with them, you know, if you want to bring on a proposal, here's how you do it, right? You invite your intended round for supper, and you choose a nice menu. Now, nothing too extravagant. You know, if you choose lobster or scallops, something they might think you're going to be too expensive to keep. So you want to be careful what you choose. And then, but you definitely then make a loaf of bread, and you have the bread. You kind of time it just so that just when they're coming to the door, the bread is just about ready to come out of the oven. So anyway, you open, the knock comes to the door, as they say in Ireland. You open the door, and then the smell of freshly baked bread wafts out, and basically they can see their whole life ahead of them, stretching out, coming home to lovely, and you're home and dry.
Do you know, that reminds me...
they roll laughing and think I'm out of the ark.
No, you're not, but it reminds me, I met you down in Baltimore and West Cork a couple of years back, and we were in your house, and you actually gave us a slice of hot bread with honey on it, and you buttered the honey and it kind of melted into it. I was like, oh my God, this is delicious. And I don't know, was it because it was served from you or what, but it was just
there you are, you see,
gorgeous.
We use the same word, bread, and it covers a multitude. It can be something ultra processed, or it can be a wonderful loaf of bread, even soda bread, it could be sourdough. And we're using the same word to describe something that can be so utterly different.
Yes.
And something that can be so nutritious, such a staple, a nutritious staple, or something that literally will think. And is it a coincidence that there's such a rise in gluten intolerance and gluten allergies? I wonder. I doubt it. Yeah.
Can we talk about Irish food culture? Because I think, you know, you've been part of and in so many ways driven a transformation in our food culture here in Ireland. What do you think have been the most powerful changes that you've witnessed over the years? And do you think there's anything that we've lost that's really important?
Oh, well, you know, our lives have become so much busier and it's become more of a challenge for a lot of people. Are definitely, since, you know, I started in the very beginning, our whole restaurant culture has become much more vibrant, and our chefs have become so much more adventurous, travelled much more, and many of the top chefs now, of course, are really going out of their way to get the best possible ingredients. The whole artisan food sector has developed from the initial tentative artisan products. For example, I think it really was the Irish farmhouse cheesemakers who led the way. People like lovely Veronica Steele, who made the Malines cheese, and was the matriarch, really, to a great extent, of all the Irish farmhouse cheesemakers. Such an inspiration to so many, to Jaina at Gabine, and then Durris and all of those. So all of that has been terrific, and so in some ways there have been lots and lots of progress made. But then when you hear and see and hear the amount of ultra-processed food we're eating now. We're addicted to convenience, and that's it. And it's all very fine, and one certainly can't be judgmental because there's lives are so much busier. But basically, we pay a big price for cheap food. I mean, we now all think that cheap food is our right, and a lot of it, so much food now, the big emphasis in agriculture and horticulture is to produce the maximum amount of food at the minimum cost, to the detriment of nutrients and everything in the food. And it's a disaster in health terms, socioeconomic terms, in flavour terms, in everything. So I'm definitely a glass half full person. But my goodness, I can't help but be feeling really pessimistic and dejected sometimes about where we're going. And I think, my God, I've been going on and on and on about this for, I don't, 40 something years the school has been in operation now. Although we have alumni who, we do three-month certificate course in the year, as well as all the other short courses and all that stuff. But basically, and we have students who go out all over the world. We have students, I don't know how many countries we've had students, many of them are opening restaurants, doing catering business and everything, and they're all spreading the word, and they keep the faith to a great extent. And I like to think that they're spreading the message and passing on the philosophy and the ethos. And so that gives me great hope, because I know there are little pockets of wonderful things happening, and indeed there are. But overall, the farmers, as I mentioned earlier, I feel so sorry for the farmers, because so many farmers, many of them are in desperation now. They love the land. The last thing they want to do is to have to sell the land. But it's almost impossible for many of them to just earn even a basic living.
They're struggling.
They're struggling. And I feel such sympathy with so many farmers now who are doing their absolute utmost. They're farming as cleverly as they possibly can. But basically what they're doing is they're doing exactly what they were advised to do. So they're in a catch-22 situation. They're following what was considered to be the best scientific practice, and this is where they are now.
Yeah.
Sorry,
no, that's fine. And I think that requires a little bit of kind of thought to to process all that and kind of realise the long-term impact of everything that we've done in the past.
And for those of us who are grandmothers and grandfathers, that if we possibly can do our utmost to share our skills and not just in cooking but in sowing seeds, growing, literally show them how to knit, how to sew in a button, how to put up a shelf, any little skills we have, gather the grandchildren around us and pass on those skills.
What's the deeper meaning behind that, passing on the skills? Like what do you feel really is the kind of hope with that?
Well, I mean, for many children and grandchildren, that's what memories are made of, and it brings a wonderful extra closeness. Now, I'm far from the model granny, basically, but I didn't know either of my grandmothers, in fact. They had both passed on before but I think it's a very special relationship one has with one's children. And I always remember years ago, I think it was Amelia came along and said to me, "Grandma, wait till I show you do you know how to make a cake? Shall I show you how to make a cake?" Which is lovely. And she had an iPhone or something in her hand, and she was able to show me how to make it on Instagram.
Oh goodness!
So anyway, I thought, there we are. So it all come full circle.
Yeah. Come here. You've been through so much in your life, as with your family, your teaching, your books. Like, how have you kept it all together? How have you kept grounded? And what have been your anchors when things have felt hard or uncertain for you?
Oh my goodness. Well, I suppose I'm from a generation that had a sort of philosophy of keeping on. So, and I've always had a lot of support, family support. We live in a big family unit here. My children and my 4 children and my 11 grandchildren all live within 5 minutes of us here. I mean, it's very unusual even in Ireland, so I'm very, very fortunate. To be surrounded by family and friends, and of course I'm not just exaggerating, a really wonderful team here. I spoke to one of the lads on the farm yesterday, and I was just saying, how long are you here? It's 43 years, working with us now. So we have lots of people who are here for many, many decades, and others who have just arrived and are coming in and, learning and trainee teachers and trainee gardeners and everything. But it's all, and they love it here because there's an opportunity, it's so biodiverse and so many opportunities to learn. So it's a brilliant place for people who are curious and really, really want to, pick up lots of skills and knowledge.
I feel we're kind of coming to the end of this conversation, but I want to kind of finish up to know if you've any if you could offer like one piece of advice to somebody who really wants to make a difference in how we grow, how we cook, how we think about food today, what would that be?
Well, I would say it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're an astronaut or a doctor or a lawyer or a scientist, just slow down and take a little time to learn a few basic cooking skills. And it'll make such a difference to your own life, to your own health, to your friends. It's one of the easiest ways to win friends and influence people to be able to cook. You can get a job anywhere in the world. If you can cook, you can travel and so on. And it's one of the easiest ways to spread the joy and spread the love.
Yeah, gorgeous.
And to keep yourself and everybody around you healthy.
And happy.
And happy.
Well, Darina, thank you so much. This has just been a wonderful, open, generous conversation, and you've just offered us, so much more than food for thought.
Well, lovely to chat to you, Julie.
Definitely
Thank you for
reminded us that food is, it's connection, it's memory, it's tradition, and it's our future. It's all
our
together.
future, absolutely, and our health totally depends on it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Good, and for me too, thank you.
We'll see you at the Ballymaloe Festival of Food.
And certainly will. I'm totally looking forward to it, I must tell you. Yeah.
Great.
And that's it from the Ballymaloe Festival of Food podcast. Tune in next time when we bring you live recorded conversations from the festival itself. And as always, you can find out more about what's happening on the Ballymaloe Grain Store website, www.ballymaloegrainstore.com.